So today is the 21st. Is it clear? Can you see? Is everything okay? Everyone? Okay. Good. So we are trying to finalize chapter 5 with 1.5, which is bias in sampling. Just a couple of minutes to talk about this. So there is no study, experiment or otherwise, designed experiment or otherwise, that does not have any bias. It's impossible not to have some bias, not to have some error. That's not possible. So sources, oops, so correct this for me as sources of bias. I have a typo there, my apologies. Okay, so we have sampling, we have non-response, and we have even response. So we can have bias in all these situations. So let's say about sampling bias, what does it mean? Sampling bias is when we use, for example, using a convenient sample. So why is it sampling bias? Because we already said that the convenient sample doesn't give the results representative, or it's not a sample representative of the population. So it's flawed. What else? I can say it favors a group or groups. Someone who passes by, or a particular area where people go to. Non-response, that's another type of bias. Non-response. So we send a survey, a questionnaire to people, but not everyone responds. And what is the problem with that? Well, they may have different opinions than the ones that respond, and they may sway the results. But if I don't have their response, I will be biased. I will just draw a conclusion based on people who respond. So biased by drawing conclusions only on responses, without taking into account the others, without taking into account different responses, maybe different opinions. People say that if you are upset, you will find a way to fill out the questionnaire. If you're not upset or you don't care about the topic, you may not. But I want to know everybody's opinion so I can draw an informed conclusion. But if I only get responses from people who are upset, and I don't get responses from people who are not upset, as an example, then that's not a representative sample or a representative opinion. Okay, response bias. It depends on, so the response. The response bias is when I ask a question to get a response. So I formulate the question to kind of force a response. To force a response. Instead of having a question that is neutral. In other words, it's a misrepresentation of an answer. The same thing. Misrepresentation of answers. two more. They're here, kind of other errors, non-sampling and sampling errors. Non-sampling errors, so other errors. Non-sampling, they do not come from the technique of sampling that I used. Where can I make mistakes? Data entry. That's an example. Data entry. I put in something by mistake. It's 11, but I type 1. Or it's 12 and I type 10. That's then data entry. Also, response bias fits in this category as well. Okay, finally the last one, sampling error. This comes from the technique I used. So if I use a sample, so using a sample that omits a group or groups of individuals, of course, individuals, maybe intentional. That's a huge bias, especially if it's intentional. That completes chapter 1, so we can start chapter 2. But I have a quick 3 questions quiz if you'd like to go through. Go back to Canvas. If you'd like to click on back to Canvas. If you'd like to click on either grades or home page, and you will see it in the right column. It's very, very simple. I called it more 1.2 through 1.5. 3 very quick, easy questions.